Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about the concept of scarcity, and more specifically the scarcity of time. Okay, so in any business, the most important factor in how successful you're going to be is timing. Really, especially if it's a new business, a business that has high growth potential, timing is very important, right? And timing means getting into the market at the right time, right? And the concept of scarcity is very important here in the sense that you only have a limited amount of time in any market and more broadly in your life to accomplish what you need to accomplish before that window is closed, right? So let's take a step back here, right? And just think about your life in general. You know, let's say starting from 15 years old, right? You have a limited amount of time when you're 15 to start a business, if that's what you want to do. Most 15-year-olds don't, but to start a business before the realities of life start to get in the way. You know, so before you maybe have to get ready for, college/university, whatever you call it, depending on where you live. And then once you get there, you have more responsibility and more responsibility. And that's just kind of how most people's lives are going to work. The older you get, the more responsibility you're going to get, the smaller the window of time you're going to have to accomplish what you want to accomplish, right? The same thing can apply to really any market, right? Every market, starts out being, kind of in its infancy and then starts to mature and then eventually hits a climax and, gets saturated, and the opportunities really come when you're able to kind of set up all the infrastructure of your business in the infancy of that market and kind of ride the wave. Now, a lot of times, and this is what's so interesting about the internet, a lot of times markets that have been traditionally around for 40, 50 years, you can actually use the internet to completely reinvent, how people do things in that industry. And I don't even want to say reinvent, just take advantage of how, people find businesses, right? So even if it's something really basic, think of something that has been around forever, the way people are looking for that service is a lot different today in the 2020s than it would be even in the 2010s or in the early 2000s, right? So you can actually set up your business in a way that your competitors, many of whom have been in the industry for a long time, cannot compete with you, even though they are more established, they have more infrastructure. If you're able to take advantage of some of these digital marketing tools and really understand how to draw in new customers, you can take a very significant part of that market share before other people who are innovative and savvy like you can kind of come in and compete with you, right? So you're seeing this happen in a lot of different industries right now. A lot of these industries are actually not even that interesting or super new, but there's so much opportunity just because there's an older generation who's used to marketing and selling a certain way, and then there's a new generation that is a lot more digital and can kind of take advantage of building a digital brand, building online real estate, right? A website is not just a website; it's online real estate. How many people come to that website, how people interact with that website, all of that stuff is an asset, right? So if you're able to draw people to a website, to your asset, to your commercial real estate, which is what it is these days, then you're able to take advantage of things. Now, let's say you're talking about something that's more of an innovative sector, something new. There's going to be high growth potential, depending on the industry, right? And a lot of times, you might be able to take advantage of a market before the big players really get an eye on it. Before the market has the big players' attention, or people who would be attracted to the industry, right? So you usually have a very limited time window. It could be a year, could be 2 years. If it's a little bit more advanced technologically, it might be 3 or 4 years. But regardless, there is a window, and that window will close, and that window will disappear. And so you have to really take a look at that market and decide, okay, what experiences do I have that allow me to have a competitive advantage within that market, okay? What resources do I need to enter that market? Do I have those resources myself, or do I need to go out and raise capital? A lot of times you actually can do more by yourself to get to a point where when you raise capital, you don't have to give up as much to to get whatever amount of money you're looking for. The further you're able to take it without capital, then you're able to kind of grow it properly, right? And then eventually raise capital to help accelerate the growth. Now, in some cases, it's worth giving up more equity to get capital quicker because the market window is small and the opportunity is big. So if you can take advantage of that small period by accelerating, growth through raising capital, right? Again, don't raise capital unless you kind of feel like you know what you're doing. A lot of people just want to raise capital for the sake of raising capital. In legitimate circumstances where raising capital is needed to do what you're doing, then you definitely want to be able to understand, okay, when's the right time to do this? And maybe I give up more now when my business is not as evolved to get capital because I can accelerate it much quicker and actually take a dominant position within this industry instead of trying to do things without capital and then ending up in a situation where you have more control of the business, but the business is not as big, competitors are passing you, all that kind of stuff, right? So understanding how scarce time is, both in terms of your life, but as well in terms of business opportunities, is absolutely critical to both feeling a sense of urgency, but also really establishing yourself as a main player in any market that you're going for, right? And whatever your goals are, whether that's to be acquired, whether that's to kind of grow and be the leader of your industry over the next few decades, whether it's just to take a piece of the market and run a sustainable business that way, depending on your goals, depending on the actual business, depending on the potential, all that kind of stuff. Regardless of what industry you're in, as long as you're able to kind of understand how the market's going to evolve and kind of what are the timing constraints and all that kind of stuff, you will ultimately be able to kind of work towards your goal in a much more strategic way, understanding that there's always a sense of urgency in whatever you're doing. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight, some things to think about. Markets change and they change quickly. Industries change even faster than they've ever done before, and I think that trend is going to continue with things changing so fast because technology continues to evolve and the way people interact with businesses. 1 year, you could have like the hottest business, and then the next you could not, right? It just depends on the market. So it really is always about finding that industry that's going to be great 2-3 years from now, and really positioning yourself for success there, and recognizing at the same time that so many industries that have been around for 50 years are changing in the way that people are finding those providers. So there's opportunities in even traditional industries as well. So hopefully that gives you something to think about. Definitely leave any questions or comments below, and we definitely are interested in hearing your thoughts on this and other videos that we make.